Hey, thanks for checking out the video. We're here to talk about We're All Going to the World's Fair, a 2021 movie about a teenage girl who's trying to gain entry into this online horror game called The World's Fair. But first, she has to pass the World's Fair trial. Now, I almost hesitate to review this movie because I don't think it's actually a horror movie. I mean, even though it's categorized as horror on IMDb, this movie is a horror movie in the same way that the movie Eighth Grade was a horror movie. I mean, the subject matter is horrific, but there's no real horror in the movie. It kind of teases at it, and the word is said a bunch of times, but that's kind of about it. If I went into this movie completely cold, I would have just categorized it as a straight up drama movie. Let me know in the comments if you consider this a horror movie or not. The movie's about Casey, who is a teenage girl, seemingly a latchkey kid. She seems to only live with her father, who she constantly avoids at all costs, and you only really know about him, I think, twice in the film. You never actually see him, you only hear him. And she's a horror movie fan, and she wants to be a part of this online horror game called The World's Fair. But in order to be part of it, you have to be invited into it. And in order to be invited into it, there is this challenge that you have to go through where you repeat this thing, you cut your finger, and you watch a video. And then you have to sort of wait for A, for it to change you in some way, and B, for them to invite you into this online game. So she does all of this in the opening scene of the film, and then the rest of the movie is her recording her progress. Initially, I was afraid that this movie was going to be a found footage style film, where the whole thing was just going to be all taken from her recordings, which, you know, if you like that style of horror movie, more power to you, but I just do not like found footage style at all. There's just something about it. I was a fan of Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity. There's a certain amount of charm to it, but I've just never been a found footage style fan. So I was a little afraid of that, but I was relieved that this movie is not that at all. I mean, it does get kind of more prevalent as the movie goes on, which was a bit of a shame, but it's not the whole movie. However, I would definitely categorize this movie as a slow burn style of film. There are these long kind of sequences of either uncut shots or sort of holding on these full scenes for a long period of time, as well as like the story itself progresses very slowly. I mean, it doesn't change very much at all. I mean, it's supposed to chart the change of Casey and how she feels, and along the way, she's actually contacted by this internet person who is kind of concerned for her after she posts her first couple of videos. Now, if you have watched any of my other videos, you might note that I do love slow burn movies. Love them. Can't get enough of them. However, there is a fine line for me between slow burn and boring. Now, I won't say this movie's boring, but it really gets super close to that line. Long unbroken shots are great for like the escalation of tension and, you know, kind of keeping the audience perspective firmly in this very specific moment. But man, there are long shots in this movie that is just someone walking, and it ends up feeling very superficial, like a long shot just for the sake of a long shot, like they're trying to pad the runtime or something. A lot of this movie is Casey just watching other videos of people who have already taken this challenge to varying results, and her kind of longing to be different and longing to experience this difference in herself. Ultimately, this story is really just about a lonely girl who is clamoring for some kind of acceptance. And so she reaches out to this light in the darkness, and of being a part of something bigger, and that kind of in turn drives her behavior or psychosis or whatever you want to call it. It's definitely a poignant and relevant story, but it also takes a really long time to get there. The movie checks in at about an hour and 25 minutes, but man, it felt so much longer to me. It just felt like it had a lot of wasted time in it. Anna Cobb plays Casey, and this is her first feature film, and she does a great job. But it's kind of a hard movie to recommend because it's either going to speak to you or it won't. And there's a lot of good craft here. I mean, it's a movie that deals with attention, mass hysteria, the need to fit in, the ability to hide in an online persona, and how important that can become to the point of being harmful. But it's so low energy and moves forward so incrementally while also teasing something bigger is to come, only to deliver it in this exposition dump at the end, makes this whole thing feel very unbalanced. I'd give this movie a B-, but let me know what you think.